Adrien, aka the Skim God, Skim Daddy, Skimmity Crickets, has very recently blown up on Instagram and YouTube for his creation of, wait for it, urban skimboarding. What started as a bit of a joke has now turned into the beginnings of a brand new extreme sport. But as cool as it looks, it does have a few problems. But we'll get into that. In today's video, we will explore how the hell this all happened. Adrien was born April 3rd, 1995. And like most of us in Europe, he grew up playing football.
And it can mess up this shot!
But unlike most of us, he was very good at football and actually got into like high-level football team. But you see, it was around about 2006 that he was starting to get a bit bored of football. And so one day he met up with his cousin.
My cousin, he had like this little beginner skimboard and I didn't know what it was. I looked it up online and there was a community.
Very quickly, Adrien got very good at skimboarding. He got picked up by his first ever sponsor called Shush Skimboards, and he would excel and eventually get sponsored by DB Skimboard. And around his late teens and early 20s, he was traveling all around the world. He was going to America and doing these big competitions in skimboarding. And he would win the European Skimboarding Cup 4 times. He had pretty much reached the absolute top of the sport, but there was a problem.
Back then, I wasn't making a living. You know, there was really, truly no money in the sport. No one was actually making a living. Like, I've done this skimboarding stuff for like 15 years. I was not getting bored of it, but I felt like it was just kind of like really stagnant in a way.
Adrien was starting to realize there was a pretty low ceiling as to what a pro skimboarder could do. And so there was only so long that being a top-level skimboarder could last. Before we go any further with this video, I want to give a massive shout out to today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Raid's got a ton of champions, over 600 now, and all of those champions come with unique factions, each with their own history in the world of Teleria. You can download Raid for free yourself using my links below to your PC or your mobile. So the new boss that has come to Raid is the craziest one yet, called Hydra. This thing has 6 different heads, each one of them being their own boss battle in themselves. You got the Head of Suffering. It has this special effect called Pain Link, which basically lets the head share damage with you, so if you're attacking it, you're gonna kind of hurt yourself. You got the Head of Torment, and its special is using this thing called True Fear, which basically forces you to skip turns and lose access to your abilities. What I really like about the gameplay of Raid is like the turn-based system. I also love that every dungeon boss has their own kind of unique mechanics. Raid is also given a super limited edition champion away to every player. Some of you might already recognize them. It's the esports legend called Simple. Between now and January 28th, 2022, Simple's limited edition champion is available to both new players and old players in Raid. All you need to do to get it is log in 7 days between now and January 28th. On top of that, because it's the holidays, Raid has got a full schedule of like festive events for you to enjoy, and even some fusion events to help you add some of Raid's festive champions to your collection. So hit the link in the description or scan my QR code and you'll get an epic champion Vergis, 200k silver, 1 energy refill, and 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard, so that you can summon some awesome champions as soon as you get into the game. These rewards will only be available for the next 30 days and only to new players. All of this will be waiting for you right here. Once you're in, you'll be able to find me in the game under the username Jimmy the G. And if you're fast, you can join my clan. And it's that easy. Just click the link in the description and I'll see you in game. Around 2018, Adrien was living with his girlfriend in Taiwan. Adrien didn't have a job, he didn't have a car, and so he would spend most of his days taking a train to the beach to go skimboarding. But because he had no car, he couldn't bring with him any ramps. So Adrien was getting so desperate, he would have to resort to like getting bamboo sticks and grinding along them. It was like a fish version of Tarzan.
But at one point it was just like, damn, it's like back home I have like all these friends with like these big ramps. I have like these little skim parks I can go to with like all these obstacles.
Over time, he started to miss like proper skimboarding, and so this led to a phone call. Oh, you alright, Adrien? How you doing, mate? You good? Yeah, I'm okay, bro, but I just don't have any skimboarding spots. That's my best attempt at your accent, Adrien. I'm sorry. Oh, no, mate. I can see it's getting you down some, but that's why I'm calling you. I've got a good idea. Okay. You ever thought about skimboarding on a water fountain? Huh? And so Adrien, slightly confused, agreed. And the pair of them jumped on the back of a scooter and headed into town.
I don't know, man. Like, this is kind of weird. Is security gonna be pissed? Like, is my board gonna break? But like, either way, we went on his scooter and we went to the first spot. It was like this 3-meter thing, like this ledge basically. And I just ran, had my board on the ledge. I jumped on and just kind of like hopped off the thing, and like water was shooting in every direction.
As the two were driving past a skate park, Adrien noticed something in the corner of his eye. He saw that there was a skate bowl that was made out of wood, and it just so happened to have been raining and was covered in water.
I tried to drop in and I was like kind of scared. I was like, I don't know if this is going to slide or what's going to happen. And I dropped in the bowl and I got like a lot of speed and I ended up all the way to the other side of the bowl, like the long end of the bowl. And I was like, whoa, this works. And we filmed some tricks. I was like kind of like running from the bottom and I would jump on my board, go up the quarter pipe, do a trick. So I was like doing stalls and like little shove-its and big spins, stalling, kind of like, you know, skateboard type tricks. So that was like the real moment. The first spot was like kind of average, but it was fun. And then we arrived at the skate park.
This was a complete eureka moment. As Adrien dropped into the ramp, he realized he was onto something. And so from here, Adrien became fixated on the idea of urban skimboarding. Everywhere he'd go, he would take his skimboard with him and see if he could find places to use it. And the boy was trying anything. You would see him in the early days like skimming down dry stair sets, metal grates, all with quite varying levels of success. But you see, ultimately, his quest for finding urban skimboarding spots would lead him back to water fountains. Despite his very first attempt at a water fountain being a bit of a dud, he realised quickly that no two water fountains are the same. All of them were unique. Different run-ups, different ledge configurations, different water depths. I can kind of just picture like Adrien and someone who doesn't do urban skimboarding walking past a water fountain. Adrien points it out and it's like, oh, it looks beautiful. And the friend's there like, yeah, man, look at all the water jets. Meanwhile, Adrian's getting his ruler out and measuring like the water depth and seeing how deep it is.
Oh, this is good.
Anyway, naturally, as you'd expect, Adrien was sharing these clips to Instagram, and straight away they would grab people's attention. A lot of people were super impressed with what it was he was doing, but some people weren't so impressed.
At first, I was a little bit unsure because, you know, I was afraid of what like the community would think. And some people were like, oh, you're just damaging your boards. Or, you know, at first I kind of went like a different route. I was just like skimming downstairs, which now I think is a little bit weird. There was no water involved. There were some people saying like, you're just trying to get views. But to be fair, it wasn't really about that. It was just, you know, I was having fun just bombing downstairs on my skimboard. But now I think I kind of like figured out a direction and like the things I should do, the kind of places I should go.
Adrien's clips were getting more attention now than anything he was posting before. And so Adrien would follow this interest and progress urban skimboarding and see what was possible. It's important we just take a moment here and appreciate that Adrien is literally pioneering a whole new sport, or at least a new style of skimboarding. He's basically solving the question of like, what's possible on a skimboard? What can you do and what can't you do? Because all of the conditions of the spots that he goes to are completely different to when you skimboard at a beach. Concrete, wood, and stone react very differently to how sand reacts.
You know, certain fountains or spots I hit in the streets, it's impossible to recreate that at the beach. For example, like if I ride a spot that is like an elevated fountain with a drop, that's something you can't recreate at the beach. You don't really have like waterfall beaches, maybe one or two in the world, but it's really rare.
So is it
so
actually
I just
better
think
the urban spots are better?
To be fair, yes. Like some of them are better than beaches. Like I personally have more fun going to an urban spot than riding at the beach.
He's literally the first person on earth doing this sport. Well, kind of.
This is Seattle skimboarding.
If you're a really diehard Jackass fan, you might know that there's a deleted scene from the Jackass movie called Seattle Skimboarding, which they were doing as a complete joke, but inadvertently, they were the first to really do this.
I remember I saw it like a really, really long time ago. A lot of people were commenting like, yo, Jackass did it first. And I was like, what? Jackass? And I looked it up and indeed, like they were in the streets.
Anyway, what I think is quite important to note is how skimboarding often gets a liken to a mix of surfing and skateboarding, which is kind of accurate aesthetically, but when it comes to skills and techniques, skimming is totally different. For instance, if you want to ollie on a skimboard, it's completely dictated by the depth of the water. In fact, pretty much the whole sport is dictated by how deep the water is. If it's too deep or too shallow, you might not be able to skim on it. Also, to be good at skimboarding, you really need to be able to sprint very fast on water. Momentum in skimboarding dissipates over time, as opposed to pretty much every other sport that you can build and sustain momentum. When you're skimboarding, you just rely on how fast you can run. Anyway, so Adrien would continue posting his clips to Instagram, and he was growing. His videos were reaching wider and wider audiences, until one day when he would eventually get in contact with a company called Rots Matwerk, which is a company that specializes in water fountains.
all the fountains they made were really like shallow water, bigger fountains that were rideable on a skimboard. So they were like posting my videos on their socials and stuff like that. Started sending me their new fountains they would make, sending me messages like, yo, we just built this, you should go check it out.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So as you would imagine, this massively helped Adrien in his quest to find spots, because the process of finding an urban skimboarding spot is a pretty painful one, because he has to A, locate a water fountain, be that online or by suggestion, or maybe he's just driving past one, and then B, he has to travel there, however far that might be, and just hope that he can actually skim on it. Because it's very possible that he'll go all of the way there, take one look at it and realize he can't skim on it and just have to go home. And once he's at a spot, he might get about 1 to 3 hours out of it, depending on what obstacles are there and whether he just gets kicked off immediately. And I can imagine the feeling of doing what he's doing. He's of course gonna get some weird looks from the public, you know, being a 20-year-old man splashing around in a public water fountain like a 5-year-old. But regardless, he just cracks on, and quite often from the public, he gets a very good response.
I did notice that now I'm doing this urban skimboarding stuff, I get like way more attention from like, you know, you wouldn't have discovered me if I wasn't doing this, if I was just riding at the beach.
Adrien's very first urban skimboarding video on YouTube got 1.2 million views. And obviously tons of his Instagram clips are racking up views. The Olympics teamed up with Adrien to make a video on him. Red Bull have worked with him on videos. All of this over the last couple of years since he started has now made it possible for him to earn a legit living off of this sport. Whereas all those years as a pro skimboarder, he was scraping to get by. So a question you might be wondering is, why is Adrien doing so well, whereas traditional skimboarders aren't really making much money and being able to make careers? I think the obvious reason in part is the novelty. It's new, it's attracting a lot of eyes, and it's very easy for his clips to go viral. But beyond that, as personally an outsider to the world of like water sports and skimboarding, there's something about the urban skimboarding that's just more interesting to someone like me.
But I have like a lot of support around me from the community and outside the community, of course. It's more relatable when I skimboard in the city.
I just don't think skimboarding in and of itself is that relatable to the average Joe. Like, sure, it's really cool, it's very impressive what they can do, but the locations are always just sort of beaches and lakes. They're all pretty similar. Whereas urban skimboarding really stands out because each location is entirely different looking. But the thing is, I do wonder, is this like a novelty fad? You know, like soap shoes?
There it is.
Oh, comment below if you want a video on soap shoes. Or can this be something more?
Daily on my DMs, people like take a picture of a place and like, oh, Adrien, you should come here, you should come here.
Yeah.
I think less people are actually riding the spots. The reason for that, I don't know. I don't know why they don't get in there. So I've been talking to a few people about, you know, possibly making skimboard parks. When people used to at the beach, you know, we would just build our own ramps and like that's what skimboarding was. But now that I go in the streets and I ride urban obstacles, things that are impossible to recreate that at the beach.
Skim parks do already exist, but very often they're completely flat and they're on like inflatables. Whereas urban parks would be more like a skate park with multiple levels, rails, ledges, that allow for a far wider variety of tricks and skills. The skater called Steve Berra from the Berrics has actually invited Adrien to go out to the Berrics, flood the entire park and do skimboarding. And he's done it before where he's gone to skate parks and slightly flooded them. And even just from doing that, they were able to do things that in traditional skimboarding you just couldn't do. But I think the real issue is, will there be a demand and a market for urban skimboarding? Because at the moment it's just Adrien, and for it to become a big thing, it obviously needs to grow beyond Adrien. And it doesn't seem like right now loads of people are diving to try urban skimboarding. I mean, there's definitely a few obvious reasons for that. Urban skimboarding is considerably more dangerous than doing it at a beach. So in order to be able to do anything, you already need to be a very decent level skimboarder. And then so secondly, once you are a decent level skimboarder, you gotta be happy going to your town center and splashing around a water fountain like a kid. So you can understand that there is a pretty high barrier for entry. But this is exactly what Adrien and his like urban park idea hopes to bridge.
No, for sure. Like I just spoke to my board sponsor yesterday and she told me like this year they have way more sales. You know, like of course at the beginning of the year there was like the, you know, music, like every action sport brand was selling more, but like it's still continuing now in October. It's hard to track to see if it's like whether like from my influence or from my videos, but like
as someone who has no expertise, I'd almost certainly say it is, because like I haven't heard about skimboarding in years.
I mean, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know like how I'm pioneering this stuff, and I don't know what direction to go. I don't have like a plan, let's say. Like I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just doing it. So
Adrien deserves all the success he's having right now, so keep it up, Adrien, we love you. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Every Monday at 6 PM, I'm live streaming here on YouTube. I'm playing like Riders Republic. You can support me by picking something up at jimmythegiant.co.uk, donating to me on Patreon, or using the sponsored link below. Peace.